Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing the Biden executive order, a recent executive order. This is from whitehouse.gov. It's titled Executive Order on Restoring Faith in Our Legal Immigration Systems and Strengthening Integration and Inclusion Efforts for New Americans. There's a lot in here. I'm going to quote directly some salient points I thought were good for this video. Making other videos contemporaneously with this one, we're going to get into a little of the nuts and bolts in that, but I want to get this point across. Quoting directly, it is essential to ensure that our laws and policies encourage full participation by immigrants, including refugees, in our civic life, that immigration processes and other benefits are delivered effectively and efficiently, and that the federal government eliminates sources of fear and other barriers. And this, I wanted to emphasize, that prevent immigrants from accessing government services available to them. So that was noteworthy. Then going further, under Section 3, where it says restoring trust in our legal immigration system, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall review existing regulations, orders, guidance, documents, policies, and any other similar agency actions, collectively agency actions, that may be inconsistent with the policy set forth in Section 1. So, again, this all refers back to Section 1. In Section 1, I don't mean to paraphrase an executive order, but there's a lot here, and I think for purposes of this video, to distill it down. Basically, not trying to be obstructionist to intending immigrants. It's kind of the gist of it. But quoting further, identify barriers that impede access to immigration benefits and fair, efficient adjudications of these benefits, and make recommendations on how to remove these barriers as appropriate and consistent with applicable law. For example, just from what we've seen here in the past few months, perhaps simply receiving and what I would call receipting in petitions for immigration benefits in a timely manner. Up until the fourth quarter of 2020, when we would file petitions, you send them off to USCIS, they get them. Within 2 weeks to maybe 3, we'd usually see a receipt notice back. I've got cases we filed back in October that we're still waiting around for receipt notices on. Okay, the mail system's been a little slow, but honestly, I mean, come on, it's been months in some of these cases, weeks certainly, but months longer than it needs to be. So again, barriers. Identify any agency actions that fail to promote access to the legal immigration system, such as a final rule entitled U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Fee Schedule and changes to certain other immigration benefit request requirements in light of the Emergency Stopgap USCIS Stabilization Act, and recommend steps as appropriate and consistent with applicable law to revise or rescind those agency actions. And then quoting further, within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall each submit a plan to the President describing the steps their respective agencies will take to advance the policy set forth in Section 1 of this order. What should be taken away from this? Well, one, executive orders take a little while. It's not going to be overnight when we see this implemented, but what I think one should take away from this is, look, this administration is not going to be like the last administration, and I don't want to get political here. This doesn't have anything to do with one's political philosophy. I'm simply talking about this in the narrow context of U.S. immigration, but the last administration, especially the final 2 years, it just seemed like all they were doing was just obstructionism at an administrative level, if nothing else. Just rules created, directives handed down, things sort of amended or modified just to make the overall process harder. Now, I would argue Trump had the first 2 years of his administration where his party had the 2 houses of Congress to go ahead and put through legislation to make fundamental changes to the law. And as an attorney, you make changes through the legislative process. That just is what it is. Elections have consequences. But to do this kind of obstructionism via the administrative apparatus and the executive order apparatus, I just found it to be very disheartening and really not in line with the principles of constitutionalism in the United States. Again, this is simply a legal analysis and the way I looked at it legally. I'm not getting into the politics of it, but it looks like the Biden administration is trying to, at least on a paradigm level, sort of reverse some of this stuff. It's not gonna happen overnight. These things don't, the U.S. bureaucracy does not stop on a dime and just change direction. That's not how it works. But I do think we will start seeing substantive changes, at least practical changes in the way in which cases are processed in the relatively near future.